Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brick Squad pod. It's Henry Lytle alongside Leo Romano, John Donahue, GC. No camera for you today, but you are still here as well.
It's okay.
It should be all good, but we're excited.
This is new. I'm excited.
Yes, we got a packed show tonight for all of you, and we got to start here first with the NBA play-in last night. It was the first games of the play-in. We had the 8-9 game in the West, as well as the 7-8 game, I think, in the West. 8-9 game, 9-10 game in the East, 7-8 in the West. It was a mix, but guys, the Hornets are good at basketball again. And as someone from North Carolina, it's really fun. It was maybe the game of the year, one of the best games of the year. 2 games decided by a total of 5 points. Of course, the Hornets won going to overtime, and it was a real blast.
Yeah, it was a fun game. I remember a lot of drama toward the end of that game in terms of baskets made from the corner, from deep, some good drives. There's something I want to talk about, though, that happened in the middle of the game. But before we get into that, any big takeaways from you?
Yeah, I mean, the Hornets are a really fun team to watch. And crazy coaching decisions, especially putting Kobe White in over Con Knipple near the end of that game. Con Knipple leads the NBA in threes. And Kobe White, their sixth man that they traded for from the Bulls, coming up huge with some big-time shots. And then you got the LaMelo lay-in to recover from his fouling Tyler Hero at the end. But yeah, the Hornets, I totally agree. I'm not from North Carolina, but a lot of fun to watch. They have shooters all over the floor. And yeah, I mean, the Heat are simply a different team without Bam Adebayo. Certainly they were hurting. I'm not sure if you were referring to that.
I was.
Yeah, wait, let me get in there. Let me get in there real quick before we start to
getting the hand in
that.
there. Bam Adebayo out for the game.
Let me get in with a couple things about the Hornets real quick before we get into that. Sure. Because, of course, the Hornets won the game, and before we talk about the Heat, we got to talk about it. The Hornets won, guys, but they shot 18 of 56 from the three-point line. Whoa. LaMelo was 2 of 16 from deep, and Con Knipple did not make a three-pointer. He also didn't play the close of the game.
Right.
And for a team that was one of the best down the back half of this season, they had multiple streaks of 8+ wins that they kind of compiled together. They found a way to win this game, and that was what was impressive to me. I think out of all maybe of the 8 and below seeds, 7, maybe even 7 and below seeds, this team has the chance to upset one of the higher seeds in the first round.
Absolutely. They
swept the Pistons this year in the regular season, so if they can win the next game and go up against them, there's a really good shot, especially with how Cade has been injured. But you're right, Leo. Let's take it to that injury.
Yeah, I saw the play this afternoon on PTI for a second time, and I'll tell you what, it wasn't clean.
No.
We'll put it that way. It was dirty.
It was clean.
I didn't appreciate the play from LaMelo. It didn't even look like a heat of the moment type of situation. I think he just plain old went in and tripped up Bam Adebayo, and just like that, Bam, who, is the centerpiece of this Miami Heat team, ended up being out for the game because of that. He fell pretty hard on his tailbone, and just like that, it definitely flipped the game. I'm not saying the outcome could have been entirely different, but remember, this is a guy who scored 83 points just a month ago. So it's a guy who can get hot, someone that the Heat needed, and for LaMelo Ball to take him out like that, I didn't like it and thought that he should have been ejected.
I could not disagree more, actually. Watching that fall, it was clear LaMelo Ball tripped, and he was sort of trying to cushion his fall, happened to grab onto Bam Adebayo's ankle and sort of sent him over the other way. Was it a tough fall? Absolutely. But I didn't see anything that registered that there was any malintent. This is a Hornets team that I believe is now 28-7 over the last 35 games. Right. So they've been absolutely balling. It's not like this was some sort of cheap shot injury to make sure they could win the game. This is a very solid team. And although Bam Adebayo did score 83 in a game, it's not like he's like any sort of elite scorer that they like absolutely need to clamp down. I believe he's averaging maybe 20 points at most. And so I didn't see any malintent there. I thought LaMelo's he happened to grab onto his ankle as he was trying to reach out his hand to cushion his fall. But I would not I don't think there should be an asterisk. And I'm, like you said, I'm very excited for that. If we can get a Hornets Pistons series, we'll see. They'll either have to beat the 76ers or the Magic. But they've had some bad blood in the past. I remember there was a big time brawl between Miles Bridges and Isaiah Stewart and Brandon Miller,
that's right.
and all of those guys. So they've had their bad blood, and I could not agree more that this is a team. This is really the only team in the NBA playoffs trying to get out of college basketball mode that can really have a massive upset early on.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'm excited. I sure hope the Hornets can win this next game, whoever it would be against. I think it'll be more exciting for basketball. And then on the other game, just briefly, it wasn't maybe as interesting as the Hornets game that was back and forth, overtime, Kobe White hitting the buzzer beater to send it, or the shot inside of 10 seconds to send it to overtime, and LaMelo's near buzzer beater as well. But Danny Avdia, who was traded over to the Trailblazers from the Wizards, has really taken a big step up in this season. He's been over 20-point per game scorer, an all-star, and he just scored 42 and 12 in a playoff game. And my question for Avdia was, he gets about 30% of his points from the free throw line. My question was how that was actually going to translate to the playoffs. But in a game where he did not really get a great whistle, there were some missed calls down the stretch. He still ended up leading this Blazers team, and they could be a fun team as well in the West.
Yeah, Blazers are a really good team. I have never really heard of Denny until last night, to be completely honest. I'm not
casual.
I'm not too big
kidding.
into the NBA, at least as of late. I haven't been into it really since Golden State and the Cavaliers would go at it between 2014 and 2018. But I mean, this is a guy who, he didn't play college basketball. He developed overseas, right in Tel Aviv from 2017 to 2020. And
he's part of that goofy 2020 draft class.
Yeah, he's made his impact known. Not that many people have from that 2020 draft class, right? So shout out to Denny for one hell of a game, and I can't wait to see what they do come the rest of the playoffs. For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, looking into the rest of the playoffs, do we have any quick predictions here for teams meeting the finals? Maybe a finals prediction out of both sides, guys.
Yeah, maybe if you have any first round matchups you're looking at, go for that as well. Because I'm really excited about this. I mean, Nuggets Timberwolves has been a budding rivalry in the NBA for years. They're going to be the 3-6 seed, but it's hard not to be excited about this Western Conference group of teams. You've obviously OKC, just an absolute juggernaut. But, I mean, the Spurs, the Rockets when they're playing at their best, which they're oftentimes not. And then you've got the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Lakers, if they can get back to full strength. I'm going to go my finals prediction, and maybe one that I'm rooting for. I'm going to go Nuggets Celtics. So I believe, have they played each other? I believe they have not. But Nuggets Celtics, two of the teams that have been elite, and that maybe the two best teams in the NBA for the last 5 years, have not met in the finals yet. I think a healthy Jason Tatum and a veteran Nuggets team, they're the team that can match up best against, for sure, the Thunder, and certainly can beat the Spurs. So give me Nuggets Celtics.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it the same exact way. I do think that the Nuggets can get out of the West, but I think it's just so top heavy with the Thunder and the Spurs. I think they're going to be the ones to meet in that Western Conference Finals. Spurs have had their number all season long, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Thunder get back to the NBA Finals. And then on the Eastern side of things, for me, I'm also seeing the Celtics come away with that. I just think the Pistons, they're not really used to this playoff environment as of late. Everyone on their team's kind of new to that picture. And then the Knicks are always a question mark in the playoffs, right? They haven't made it back in quite some time, had their chance to do it last year, fell short to the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. So at the end of the day, I'll take the Celtics in the NBA Finals, playing against the Thunder, and I wouldn't be surprised, guys, if Oklahoma City makes it back-to-back NBA championships.
Yeah, I'm not trying to agree with you guys too much here, and I would disagree if I thought seriously differently, but I think that the Nuggets match up particularly well against the Spurs. We saw them play well against the Spurs, and I just think the Spurs are a little bit young. They're big guys. They're a year or two away from really, really putting it together.
I don't know. Wembanyama, though, he's so tough to stop.
He is he is a challenge to stop, but he's also been a little bit banged up as of late. He had that shoulder injury. I don't know how he's going to look come playoff time. He might be fully back. He might not.
Did he get in enough games to be considered for? Okay, yeah.
I
saw a post about that
there's
the
some
other day
debate online, at least, about he's played a lot less minutes than other players who didn't meet the 65 game requirement. But I mean, when you're that good, I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be considered for awards.
Gotcha.
I'm with you. I think I'm gonna take the Nuggets and the Celtics there with UGC. I would like to pick the Knicks. I think we all agree the Pistons. They had a great regular season, but this team is not fully geared up for a huge playoff run. And my issue with the Knicks is the two best players don't defend. You've got Cat and Brunson out there that are defensive liabilities. It's really tough to stop teams, especially in the paint. I think Tatum and Brown are a great duo. And while the Celtics may not be as good as a team as they have been in the past few years, getting Vucevic at the deadline, they've got enough size to give the Knicks a problem. And I think they'll make it back. But whoever wins the West is going to be my champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't know what you guys think, but I mean, following college basketball for the whole season, we're getting a ton of marquee matchups, games that mean like the world to these teams, pretty much on an almost day-to-day basis. And a lot of times it feels like the NBA is not like that, where it's easy to just sort of box score, watch your way through the season. A lot of teams don't play. A lot of players are injured. And that's been a consistent criticism of the NBA for years, among many others. I'm starting to feel something for these NBA playoffs. Maybe it was just the playing games last night were elite. I'm excited about the playing games tonight. And I think there's going to be a lot of fun matchups. I'm very cautiously optimistic, but optimistic regardless about these playoffs.
Right. Well, let's get into another big tournament that just happened. Leo, you're the big golf guy here, but everyone was watching the Masters, and from my perspective, I tune out golf, maybe otherwise in the U.S. Championships and the Masters every year. And for me, the storyline of Rory McIlroy made the Masters more interesting. Although Rory was ahead big and ended up winning, I read something that without McIlroy, the Masters wouldn't have felt so special. And I want to lead that off here. What was your takeaway from the Masters? For me, Rory was fantastic throughout, and he really drove. He drove every day. I was waiting in anticipation for him to shoot. Other guys did great, but he's still in front, or what's he going to do ahead of the pack? And it was a great tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think other than Tiger Woods, maybe he's the only wire-to-wire winner at Augusta, and that in itself is impressive, not to mention the fact that he became the fourth player ever to win back-to-back at Augusta. I think Jim Nantz call captured the weekend perfectly. He said...
First since Tiger, 02-03, right?
That's right, 01-02.
01-02.
Yeah, and as Jim Nantz said, Rory is a rare repeat winner at Augusta. It was a perfect call, really captured the weekend. What I take away from the weekend is that amateurs still can't really play there. No amateurs made the cut, and it's not surprising. Although we did have Neil Shipley in 2024 make the cut, he was able to then be in the cabin with the 2024 winner Scottie Scheffler. That was a really cool moment. The rookie out of Ohio State, Neil Shipley, that is. And then if you're into the weekend and you find yourself on top of the leaderboard, but you're not familiar with it, you're also not going to be ready for that situation. Hao Tong Lee was a perfect example of that. He found himself at 9 under with a chance to tie for the lead on Saturday afternoon, and then he hooks one into the water.
Deep into the woods.
That was on Sunday. Yeah. That was on Sunday. I'm still talking Saturday here. Yeah. He hooked one into the water. He topped one in the water then on 15. So he made 2 sixes on the back 9. And then, as you guys were alluding to, he shot 80 on Saturday or on Sunday with a 10 on hole 13, which slowed down Scottie's play on that hole. He ended up missing an 8-footer for birdie, had to wait around a lot. Could have been the birdie that sent this one into sudden death between the number 1 and number 2 players in the world, which would have been electric. But at the end of the day, Rory won that on Friday when he birdied 6 out of 7. I mean, it was just super, super impressive. GC, what did you think? I'm going on and on. I could go on all day about golf, but I want to hear what you think.
No, I mean, got to preface this with I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, but Masters, I'm not even a golf guy. Masters is probably my favorite tournament in sports. Just the mystique around it, the purity of it all, and so I don't know. I felt a little bit. Maybe I'll let my bias be known. I'm not a big McIlroy guy. I'm kind of a McIlroy hater. And I just felt like the mystique wasn't really there. I get McIlroy was holding on to a lead against Scheffler, who's waiting in the clubhouse. But Cam Young, who had an unbelievable Saturday, he sort of floundered on Sunday, and it didn't come down to it. It felt like it could come down the wire when he hit that shot into the pine straw, but yeah, I didn't feel like the mystique at the very least compared to last year was there. That was an incredible moment for McIlroy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it takes away a little bit that he's been skipping out on all the other tournaments. He's been playing Augusta like twice a day for the last few weeks.
Yeah, people have had trouble with that, but I mean, you're a past Masters champion. You're allowed to do that. He hasn't been able to take advantage of that.
And I can understand, like, if it was like Kobe who did something like that, everyone would say, "Oh, this is like the Mamba mentality."
Right, exactly.
So maybe it's just because I'm not a big Rory fan.
Sure.
But I just felt like there was a lot of people who didn't really step their game up, especially on Sunday. And McIlroy, to his credit, he did. And although Scheffler really took it up a notch Saturday, Sunday, I think if the tournament goes another day, it's hard to see a tournament where Scheffler doesn't end up winning it. McIlroy outlasted the best of them. So, it was a solid Masters. I mean, in the pantheon of all the all-time Masters tournaments, it's not necessarily my favorite. There wasn't as much drama, but always enjoyable to watch the Masters.
I liked Rory's win last year better. In terms of a better Masters, it felt like there was more on the line. I can agree with you, but just getting to watch the Masters feels like a pleasure every year, guys. Yeah. I was reading some stories over the weekend about all of the things that they do to make it so the patrons that come are guests. And they're not just fans. They're not just an opportunity for revenue, but they're truly guests where prices are for food are reasonable, where it's a great game day experience, where things are safe. You leave your chair, you set it up on a hole, that's your chair for the day. And you can't order anything online. You can only buy things there at the Masters. And it just makes it all the more special.
No ad space.
Exactly.
No phones.
They cater their own ads, no phones. So it's really a premium viewing experience. And one day I really hope that I get to go down there and cover it and be a part of the experience. But man, it just feels special just to watch it every year. It's so peaceful. It's a great time of year. And I always find myself procrastinating all my Sunday homework until the night of. So nothing like the Masters memories right there on Sunday.
Hit this past Sunday. One thing I do want to mention before we move on from the Masters is how tough Rose plays that course every year. I mean, he is knocking on that door. And if anyone deserves a masterpiece and a green jacket, it's Justin Rose. And I hope that he just continues to crack on that door. His golf game isn't going anywhere over the next couple of years. He's playing the best golf in his career right now. I'm just praying that one day he gets to win at Augusta and wear that green jacket because, man, does he deserve it.
I want to say, I texted you, Leo, during Sunday. I said, man, Justin Rose looks really good. He's got a lot of golf left to play.
Yeah, dude.
And he couldn't quite get over the hump. What is this, his third or fourth runner-up in the Masters? I mean, he wins
he's
third,
had several
fourth,
runner-ups
top
and
top three,
a lot of top fives. He came in third.
Last year he was a hole or two away from winning.
Well, yeah, he was in the playoff last year.
Right,
with
Rory,
McIlroy,
so
he had a chance to take that special moment away from Roars, but
we can't feel too bad because he still made over $2 million. So it's not the worst second place finish.
It's not the worst second place, but we know he's at a point in his career. He's 45 years old.
Yeah.
That the money now is just added onto his greatness. What he really cares about is wearing that green jacket.
The money
I hope it comes.
The money is secondary, just like him.
Yes, that's what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
Right. Well, I want to talk quickly about baseball. We just had the start of the baseball season. There's a lot of things to take away. I mean, of course, the Mets looking really poor with one of the highest payrolls in the MLB. certain teams starting out hot. But one of the big new implementations was the ABS system, the automated ball and strike system. And I pulled up some challenge data this year so far where, if you aren't familiar with this and you haven't watched any baseball, the batters, the pitchers, and I think the catchers, so that's fielders or first base. I think multiple guys can call it, but you have the ability to challenge. You get, I think, 3 per game that you can get unsuccessful. If you keep winning them, you keep getting them. And we've seen a couple of goofy games. There was one where an umpire had, I think, 6 or 7 calls just from one team that were pulled against for ABS, and they all were overturned. It was an awful game, and there could have been about 12 plays that were called. But so far on the season, it's 54% overall on these calls. So maybe what we expected about. Batters are 47%, fielders are 60%, and the Cincinnati Reds are 70%. So just had to throw it out there. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job. But have y'all watched it? What have been your thoughts and impact on the game?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of just like the game watching experience, obviously your baseball purist might not be as big of a fan. And like I would consider myself somewhat of a baseball purist, but I think this is undeniably good for the game. As tough of a job as umpires have, these calls do make or break games oftentimes, and they started obviously with coaches' challenges on runners being safer out, and I think this is just the natural progression of where things should go. I think 3 is a good number where it's not like people aren't just challenging calls all the time, but absolutely in crucial moments. I'm glad that we can get a second look at what the strike zone really is. I know there's some questions early on a few years back, but I think the ABS system has been for sure a success so far this season.
Yeah, that whole system is beyond fascinating to me. It's a whole process to determine strike zones, and strike zones are drastically different for everyone, besides obviously the width of it being the width of home plate. The protocols are crazy. I don't know if you guys know, but you have to get measured between certain times. I think it's like 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then they have to get like
few
16%.
MLB players lost their height, like lost a few inches on height.
Yeah,
right.
we're more honest on height this year, that's for sure. But I think it's like 16% of your body length to 53, and then obviously it's going to shrink because we're going down a little bit in our batting stances. But I think it's been great for the game of baseball. It definitely slows things down a little bit. I don't know if I like that too much, but
It's only about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's very quick, but I also don't mind slowing it down because we've really sped up the game with this pitching clock. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm at games, I don't mind being there at the ballpark with my buddies, with my family for as long as possible. So I don't mind that aspect of it. But I don't like that you can get 2 wrong. I think you should just be, 1 wrong and it's done, because it exposes a lot of different players, and it exposes the umpires in ways I don't like. And at that point, I feel like we might as well just get on with it and go entirely ABS for every single pitch.
It's certainly a thought. I mean, the human element of the umpires is always an important part of the game.
And I love that. I don't want to move away
Right.
from that, but I'm saying if we are moving in this direction, it looks like that might be happening sooner than later.
Well, I think there will always be a human element. I'm going to disagree with you there. I think this challenge system, just like they implemented the challenge play for fouls in the NBA, I think it's going to stay somewhat similar to this, in that you're going to have a few challenge opportunities per game. Rules might shift depending on the circumstance in the future. But I think what I've read also are some interviews with the players that it's changed their approach to hitting, because everyone knows the strike zone now. You don't have a bigger zone with 2 strikes, or your approach to the plate doesn't necessarily change on what the umpire is doing, where you're playing, what some of the trends are. If he's got a low box or something you're not used to, facing certain pitchers with a lot of break, it's making the game more consistent, and I think it helps hitters a lot. And what's interesting with that is the pitching has just been so good. Pitching has been getting better and better. And I think this is something to maybe just give a little bit more of an edge to hitters, and to even level the playing field a little bit more as we just keep getting better and better in terms of pitching and off speed. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, the storylines are starting to develop for specific teams. You mentioned the Mets are struggling. there's been the Giants are struggling, the Cubs are struggling.
Right.
I'm trying to, the Red Sox are struggling, and teams like the Pirates. I mean, the Pirates, who looked like they're in hell all of last season, they've really been playing well. Certainly, Jordan Walker has the highest WAR in the MLB. That player that has been one of the bigger busts in recent MLB history. So I think storylines were very early on to the season, but storylines to follow. I mean, if Mike Trout can stay healthy, is he still one of the best hitters in the MLB? There's all sorts of stuff, but we've got a lot of baseball left to play. I'm excited.
Tons of baseball, and I'm thankful for that because my Cubbies are off to a really poor start this season, although it looks like
whole pitching rotation's injured.
Yeah, but it looks like right now that
Chop on.
the Cubs are gonna draw even at 500 tonight because
they're up
9-1 right now over the Philadelphia Phillies. So
got a quick
happy
shout
about
out to
that.
my Braves. Haven't lost a series yet, so
Really?
still
Braves are hot.
they're playing well. You know, they might lose one game per series, but that'll get you into the playoffs. You'll be just fine with that. So
Yeah, absolutely, you'll win 100 games.
probably
that way,
they'll still fall behind the Phillies probably and then be in the wild card matchup, but
Well,
it doesn't
we're
necessarily
helping you out right now.
Yeah.
right.
The Cubs are.
Right.
Phillies are down 9-1.
Well, getting into another professional sport, there's been a lot of recent talk about the NFL draft, which is coming down the pipe, guys. Just about a month, is that right, away from the NFL draft?
Something like that.
Something
Not
like
less.
that.
Oh, no, the NFL draft? No, it's
NFL
Thursday.
draft is soon.
Thursday. I'm going down to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That's right.
For
So
the NFL draft. Yeah, it's coming up. It's, 8 days away here.
8 days away, as you said. I was thinking May, but it's just the end of April.
Right.
I was thinking the first week of May, but there's been a lot of new big boards and projections and trades and everything coming up. And I just wanted to talk about if there are any guys that really jump off the board or some of the mocks that any of y'all have read or seen, anything that you want people to be on a lookout for come the draft this week. It seems like maybe a lower heavy quarterback class or some of the high caliber edge rushers we've seen in the past, but somebody's going to be picked at the top, and some of these guys are going to be big impact players.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's pretty much the only really standout QB to any degree in this draft. We got Ty Simpson later on, and a few other guys, but no one particularly special. I think we got to start out. I mean, we are here at Notre Dame. We got to start out. Where do you guys think Jeremiah Love goes? Because I've seen him mocked all the way from around 3 to 9. But I mean, at the 3rd overall pick, the fact that he's even being mocked that high as a running back really speaks to how good he is. Mike Denbrock, someone who's coached Malik Neighbors, he's coached
Jaden
Daniels. He said this is the best player he's ever had. Obviously,
Brian Thomas Jr.
We've all got to
watch.
We've all got to watch Jeremiah Love's greatness and be sort of in awe of it for a few years. But I'm really excited to see where he go. I hope he gets his money. He absolutely deserves it. Wish we could have him here, but it makes sense for him. I think he goes 4th overall, which I believe it would be the Titans.
That's right.
Yeah. I think it'll end up going 4th overall. Pair him with Cam Ward. But yeah, and then if you guys have any thoughts, the Ruben Bain situation has gotten really interesting. Sort of starting with the whole Will Campbell and short arms, and then that went over to Ruben Bain. How much do his arms play? And then obviously you have this. He hit someone with a card. The family's not pressing charges or anything, but certainly could be something to look out for. What do you guys see? Do you guys see anything happening with that situation, or who else do you see looking good in the draft?
In terms of the whole Ruben Bain situation, I'd imagine the car crash, I believe, was a while ago.
Yes.
And since no charges are being pressed, I don't imagine that'll hurt him at all, right? And then, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, when I'm looking at players, I'm looking at how they perform on the field, and he's had an excellent college career. So the whole arm situation being a little shorter, I don't mind it.
Does Will Campbell Super Bowl performance factor into that at all?
Well, maybe.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm
do you think?
gonna disagree straight up. They said Aaron Donald's arms were short. Turned out to be one of the best defensive tackles of all time. They said he was undersized.
Right.
Guys, when I watch Ruben Bain play against an Ohio State, against an Indiana national championship team, they had to run the ball on the other side.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
And even with Mesidor on the other side, who's probably going to be a first round, maybe early second round pick, he's right in there. Ruben Bain is very talented. Now, maybe he doesn't need to be the second overall pick. I don't really know how to evaluate the physicals because oftentimes you see these guys that run great 40s, don't have great college production, and then vault up the draft to not turn out to as good as some of the other people that could have gotten drafted ahead. I mean, look, Aiden Hutchinson went second behind Trayvon Walker, I think, a few years ago. Yeah. And Hutchinson was an incredible college player and has been an incredible NFL player. Walker has been a mediocre edge rusher at best. And so I think for me, that's my take on that. If there is really good production and they pop off the screen athletically, I'm not going to worry about the arm strength. He does pop off the screen. And then as well, talking about Jeremiah Love, look, I would say my can't-miss prospect is Sonny Styles. He's going to be a fantastic player at linebacker. But here's the concern I have with Love and Styles. Both of them are similar, where unbelievable athletic talents, guys that are just physically more gifted than everyone else and are going to be great players. When you draft somebody in the top 10, their rookie contract is really, really expensive. And you start to lose a little bit of the benefits of that rookie contract. For example, let's say that you drafted a player, a really good running back, on a rookie contract at the end of the first round. You're paying $4 million per year. If you draft Jeremiah Love about 4th to the Titans, as most people are mocking, he's 4th to 10th at worst, he's going to be making over $10 million a year. And that's a much bigger cap risk for 4 years for some of these teams that maybe might be trying to compete or build a roster to compete. So you get a little bit stuck in these situations where you draft these guys so high, they're great players, and you have to pay them a boatload of money. And with the salary cap, it just gets tricky. And I know this is getting into the weeds, but it is something to think about if you're a team such as the Titans that's terrible. Are you going to draft Jeremiah Love, and who's a great talent, who might be a great player for you, but you don't have any of the other pieces either? And you got to get those figured out before you can run the ball.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and certainly it hasn't been so far a real recipe for team success. In the last 10 years, I'll give you guys the list of running back selected in the top 10, though. If you're running back selected in the top 10, it's usually because you're an undeniable talent, and I think Jeremiah Love fits neatly into that. It's been Ashton Genty in 2025, Bijan Robinson 2023, Saquon in 2018, Leonard Fournette in 2017, Christian McCaffrey in 2017, and Ezekiel Elliott in 2016. Of those guys, Leonard Fournette's really the only one that didn't live up to a top 10 status of a pick. I mean, obviously the jury's still out on Genty, and we'll see how he fits with a new Raiders offense. But usually these running backs have gone on to still be really good despite multiple injuries. I mean, you look at McCaffrey, you look at Saquon. These are championship level running backs that can absolutely translate if you can get a good offensive line behind that. And so that's ultimately what the general manager who selects his job is going to be.
Yeah, to cap off the conversation, if you will, on Jeremiah Love. Look, $10 million is a lot of money, but I think any team from that 2 to 5, 2 to 6 range would say that he's worth it, because Jeremiah Love, let's face it, he's a once-in-a-generation talent. And I think any of these teams could use a centerpiece like Jeremiah Love to build their team around. And you mentioned Ashton Genty. Now pair him with Fernando Mendoza, right, this year. We haven't talked about Fernando Mendoza yet. Genty is going to be used dramatically in that offensive scheme, and I think he's going to end up being worth it. You put Jeremiah Love with Ward, yeah, he's going to be worth it. I don't think that the money should steer anyone away from Jeremiah Love because of how valuable he is. Because let's face it, you're not going to get another Jeremiah Love maybe even next year in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So,
and also, I just want a quick note: is this if this was a way deeper draft class, maybe decisions are made differently. But I think this is a fairly weak draft class, especially compared to what it looks like it could be next year. There's just not a lot of top like Caleb Downs, who's a safety and an elite one at that, is projected to go top 10, which is sort of unheard of for safety prospects typically. I don't know if anyone has gone top 10
Jamal Adams is the last one, I think.
Did Kyle Hamilton?
No, Kyle Hamilton fell. Remember because he ran a 4.5 or a 4.6 40, and they were worried about his 40 time. Turns out he's the best safety in the NFL.
Yeah.
We all could have seen that coming here.
I don't know if I trust all these numbers. I just want to see him play.
Well, we could have seen that coming over here at Notre Dame.
Oh, absolutely.
We knew
he
Kyle
was
Hamilton.
A freakish athlete.
I mean, look at Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts didn't have great
Third
combine
rounder.
numbers, and Xavier Watts is one of the best rookies last year on the defensive side of the ball.
No doubt.
I will say, I'm going to throw out a hot take, guys, and
Go for it.
this might be a little bit of my SEC Southern bias here, but I think that Ty Simpson will be a better pro quarterback than Fernando Mendoza. And let me give you a couple reasons why. Let me just give you a couple reasons.
Yep.
I think first, Mendoza was operating in a very easy system to use. It's one read, it's a check down, or he takes off. It's a read option where he's handing the ball off or he's taking it himself. It's a lot of simple one look, one read plays. And also, he had a great offensive line. He had great running backs. And I think Indiana just dominated generally against their opponents. When you look at Ty Simpson as a quarterback, what he had to go through in terms of defenses, as well as the type of offense, the misdirections, all of the other plays that Alabama was forced to incorporate because they could not run the football, I think that some of those skills are going to translate better to the NFL. And I might be wrong here, but I will say the last game manager quarterback that we saw win a national championship, J.J. McCarthy, I was big out on, and he didn't turn out to be anything. And
if Jalen Hurts can win the Super Bowl.
But Jalen Hurts ran a much more dynamic offense than Mendoza has. I haven't seen Mendoza run a pro-level offense or really anything close to it. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, and a fantastic college player. But in terms of, I honestly think Ty Simpson's going to be better than a lot of people think.
Yeah,
with the run game.
I get the worry about his transition, right? He's going to be hit a lot harder and a lot more often. You mentioned he had that bigger and formidable O-line, and that's certainly true, right? I mean, the average age on that team last year was what, like 23 and
24, yeah.
24, and you're playing against guys in the trenches who are 19, 20 years old. You're going to have great protection. You're not going to have that kind of protection, especially in Las Vegas with the Raiders, right? So I can get that concern. The only thing that I'm going to kind of get at, though, that might go against what you're saying is I really do love his accuracy, though, in the pocket. I think that's one thing that stood out to me. The ball could wobble a little bit, so I might worry about that, but he throws a really good ball in general.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree for sure. I don't think I really saw much out of Ty Simpson this year. I think when you talk about game manager, I don't think Ty Simpson's too far off. I might give a hotter take right back. I think Diego Pavia ends up being a better NFL quarterback than Ty Simpson.
At 5'10"?
Yeah, 5'10". I think Diego Pavia, he's an elite. He would be an elite backup, and I don't think Ty Simpson is going to be anything. He's not going to be as elite of a backup. I don't see Ty Simpson in a starting role, really, unless he gets drafted by a team that's elite at developing backup quarterbacks, like someone like the Packers, someone like the Vikings. I don't really see Ty Simpson flourishing as much, but we will see.
Well, it certainly depends on the situation and, how well the Raiders' offensive line can block, because if they can't, then who knows what might happen to Mendoza. He might be injured pretty quickly. But we're excited for the draft. We got about a week, and we'll definitely talk about it a little bit more. But we want to transition over to NBA draft prospects potentially. But real quick before, guys, I don't know if we talked about it on the last pod, but Carolina hired Mike Malone. It's probably the biggest news in college basketball since we've last talked. And as a Carolina guy, I've been reading in the weeds about Malone. A lot of people were hesitant, but I personally am a really big fan of Mike Malone for a few reasons. The first being his championship pedigree, winning the championship with the Nuggets, and what it takes to win a championship, to win conference finals, to play a season like that and keep your guys bought in. That's huge. Second, player development. Developing guys like Jamal Murray, like Jokic, Christian Brown, Porter Jr., all these guys were raw in a lot of areas as players, and they came in and Malone built a system that flourished. I also think he's great with players and working with players, recruiting players, getting guys to really buy in at all stages in the season. All of those things are going to translate to college. And also, he's a year older than Dan Hurley. He's a young guy. This isn't bringing in a Belichick type situation. He's got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
really
the Belichick situation was a disaster. And I think we talked about this last year. We all thought it was going to be a disaster. I don't think any of us had faith. But I actually have faith in Michael Malone. And so far, he's done a nice job in the portal with a few acquisitions.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm a big Mike Malone fan. I remember being pretty confused when they ended up firing him after a bad skid. But yeah, I think this is maybe it's not the sexiest hire North Carolina could have made. Obviously, I know people were throwing out all kinds of names. But I think this is going to be a great hire. I'm also a big fan of it for Carolina. And let's get this Carolina Duke rivalry back to where it should be. I'm excited. I'm sure he's going to recruit well. He's a very likable guy, and yeah, we'll see what happens next season. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding, but I'm excited as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to play for a guy who coached in the NBA. He knows what he's doing. One thing that stood out to me most about this hire was during his press conference, actually, so it was post-hire, he talked about his relationship with his daughter. And I don't know if you guys know, I'm sure you do, that his daughter is on the North Carolina volleyball team.
Right.
Bridget Malone. And he was initially hesitant because as a father, right, you want your daughter to have her own experience. But then I believe he mentioned, and he started tearing up when he said that his daughter texted him to come and that she wanted to be closer to the family. So he knew it was a no-doubter that he'd be there. And I'll tell you what, North Carolina got lucky with this hire because I think that within the next, maybe give him 4 or 5 seasons, he can certainly bring home a national championship to Chapel Hill.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have to see. But some people were saying they were worried about the recruiting for him. And just from my perspective, who wouldn't want to go play for a coach that won an NBA title?
Coach, I'm right here. I'll play for you.
I'll play too.
You don't want me,
But moving college into the NBA, a couple things here. It seems like there's kind of a top 5 prospects emerging. Of course, DeBanza, Peterson, Boozer, Wilson, and Acuff, that kind of top 5. And then there's a little bit of less of a consensus the farther you get down. But I will say, guys, there's been some new proposals on the NBA lottery system and the tanking situation. We had 8 teams that lost 55 games or more. I think 6 teams that lost 60 games. What kind of proposals would you have to fix this tanking? Of course, these are hypotheticals, but right now with the current system, there's not a whole lot of incentive for these teams to compete at all. And I've seen all kinds of new proposals to decrease tanking and to maybe balance it out. But unfortunately, when you have just a group of players like this that's coming in where all 5 of these first 5 guys could be franchise-changing talents, it makes more sense for these teams to lose and give themselves better odds at one of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And like even past that top 5, there's definitely players that could, if they reach their potential, change the outcome of a franchise. And yeah, as much as I've seen some proposals where it's like the play-in teams will still get draft picks, or maybe we flatten the odds, or even completely even the odds for all teams. I think ultimately the real incentive is going to be with the owner and general managers and how they end up playing. I mean, people are just taking G Leaguer after G Leaguer and having them play for whether it's like the Jazz or the Mavericks or the Kings. Like they're just playing G Leaguers, and if anyone starts playing well, they'll bench him the whole game. So ultimately, I think it has to financially hurt the owners. I don't know what the system would be for that, like a penalty for finishing in last place or below a certain line multiple years in a row, maybe even like the reduction of ticket revenue. You have to get creative with it, because otherwise, like you said, every incentive is there to tank. And as much as the lottery tried to change that, like it really doesn't, and maybe even makes it worse. So I think there has to be really heavy penalties if anything's going to change.
Sure. And I mean, here's the idea, right here of every team getting an equal chance. And I'm just going to throw that out the window because, I mean, what we're going to put DeBanson, we're going to Boozer with SGA and all the talent down in Oklahoma City, or throw them on the same floor as Wembanyama. Like, I don't know about that, but I do agree with you guys in that there has to be something done to avoid this, especially as a Chicago guy. It wasn't fun watching the Bulls down the stretch.
Nope.
They wouldn't try. And half these teams aren't even trying at this point. So, I mean, I've looked into a few proposals. There's nothing that I really like yet. Maybe the 18 spots where everyone who missed the playoffs, including the play-in teams who missed the playoffs, all get an equal chance. That sounds like the best way to me.
Let me jump in. I saw two really interesting proposals this week.
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
So the first was what you said. Everyone gets an equal chance. I didn't like that at all because you can have teams that are small market that can't get guys out of free agency. We've already seen these teams paying a premium in first-round picks. There's two big problems. The first is, what do you do with all these teams that have sent all these first-round picks out for the future? Those picks become a lot more valuable if you might finish right outside of the playoffs and you get the number 1 overall pick. That's a really valuable opportunity. Or when your team is really bad, that pick really means nothing when you fall up to 15 in the lottery. And yeah, I think the small market is a big issue because those teams have to have a way to get better. Likewise, yeah, I don't think it sets the league up for long-term success. I don't really like that proposal a whole lot, especially when the teams that lose need help. So we want the league to be more balanced. The best one that I saw, and I thought about this, I slept on it last night. My roommate and I had an intense discussion.
I saw a really good one too. Let's see if it's the same one.
So the way it works is your record at the end of the season, if you are the worst team, you get to pick whose odds you want. You completely eliminate the lottery. So if you're the worst team one year, and let's say that last year, I think the Wizards were the worst team, or the Jazz, those teams get to pick the team whose record they want the pick for. So for example, last year, if they said, the Jazz are the worst, they're like, all right, we want the Nets first round pick next year. Then they would have the Nets record of pick. So then it goes down the line where whatever order you finish is whichever team you get to select to make their pick. So you're counting on other teams. What's that?
Yeah, I feel like I need to see this.
Well, so basically,
you're explaining it well,
what your record is has nothing to do with what pick you are. You're picking based on how bad other teams are. So there's no incentive for you actually to lose games down the stretch.
But isn't it the worst team that would get those picks?
No, the worst team gets to choose the odds for the next season. So it's no direct correlation with the current season.
So it'd be like as you said, the Wizards would say, for our pick next year, we're going to take whatever pick the Nets land.
Okay, that makes sense.
The Nets land or the Pacers land or one of those teams.
So it's but then, I guess then the Nets would be like, I don't want them to have a good pick, so they're going to play as well.
That could be good for rivalries, too.
I think it could be good for rivalries.
Yeah, you get the rivalries thrown in there. That's a good point.
I don't think it would ever happen, but it was a
fun
really
to
interesting
entertain.
proposal. And thinking about it, there's no incentive for you to lose games down the stretch. In fact, you want to win as much as possible because you want to screw over the team that has your pick.
Yeah.
So
I dig it,
I think it provides more competition. We need competition down the stretch. Guys, I canceled my League Pass subscription in January. I didn't have fun in the NBA regular season. Yeah. And it was a little unfortunate. Of course, I didn't have a whole lot to root for. I canceled it right during the Hornets, I think 5-game losing streak, and after the Pelicans were the worst team in the NBA.
And then they started balling out.
But, there's not as much to get attached to in this late season, and that's what they need to fix with whatever proposal it is.
Yeah. How about like playoffs for the worst teams in the league, and the winners of that then get the number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4 picks?
But what do you say are the worst teams? Because then consistently the teams that are just really bad are never going to get good enough to win that in the first place. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
It's an entertainment product though. And if you're so bad that even the worst teams, the Wizards were able to trade for Trae Young and Anthony Davis. You could still make moves to make yourself a little bit better.
Then just include fewer teams. Just include the worst 4 or the worst 6 teams.
I think that way. Yeah. The
that
proposals
way there's
I've
at least
seen,
some nuance to where it's not like the team that's in the middle of the league all of a sudden now they get the first pick. You have to be in that top 6. It maybe moves away from the incentivizing of losses, but not entirely. So
have you guys
I don't
seen?
know. I have to rework it.
Have you guys seen the concession? Last one is. Have you guys seen the concession one where it was sort of just like a tweet that went viral and then it started getting talked about? Where every team, for example, let's just take beers or hot dogs or whatever it may be. Every team starts out at a certain level or at like a certain price that they could sell their hot dogs at. And if you win a game, you could raise it by 30 cents. And if you lose, you lower it by 20 cents. And so,
oh man!
And so, like, if you're going to Wizards game in April, you deserve like 20-cent beers. Like if you have to sit through a Wizards game in late April, and like the best teams in the league like are going to be able to charge higher prices because they're a more valuable product, and you actually get good games here. Plus, that's going to incentivize the owners, I think, in the right way, as opposed to Chicago, who sells out. They're the highest selling out team in the NBA every single year. And I mean, the last time we were good was Derrick Rose, like seriously good for a whole year was pretty much Derrick Rose. So I think it puts the incentives in the right. It's definitely a little wonky and probably has some knots in it, but I think it could be fun.
It's an idea. I mean, also you could just flatten the odds altogether, where you throw 8 teams in there to get the number 1 overall pick. The issue is it seems a little bit fishy that the last few seasons the Spurs get Wembanyama, then this year the Spurs get the number 2 overall pick from like 2% odds, and the Mavericks jump up with 2% odds to the first overall pick.
Market,
they are. Yes, they are. They're one of the biggest, most historic teams in the league. I mean, it's better than the Wizards getting that pick or the Jazz. It's certainly the Spurs sold out, I think, an 80,000 person arena a couple seasons ago to play the Warriors. It's a huge market, and it's good for basketball when the better teams are good. I just when it leaves more opportunity in the league's hands or up to chance, quote unquote, I think that we're just I don't like that today with all the stuff going on with betting and all this nonsense. I read another stat this week that the teams' records against the money line were the exact same the last 2 seasons. The exact same record for teams against the money line. It just, guys, 872 and 650 just doesn't seem exactly the same 2 years. It's a little bit fishy. I don't know. I just don't like leaving it as much up to quote unquote chance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us here from the Brick Squad Pod. It was a pleasure having you along for this ride, and we will be back for another show next week. Thank you.
Absolutely.